Welcome back to the Project Podcast. I'm your host, Connor Lewis, and today I have a very special guest, Chris Merritt, head football coach at Bryant. Coach, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Connor. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I really appreciate you joining me today. You're our first Division I coach on this show. I've interviewed Division I coaches in the past, but I'd like to talk a little bit about your career, and I'd like to start at the very beginning where you played. Is it true you were a walk-on Indiana football?
Yep, I walked on after I graduated high school all the way back in 1988.
Were there still dinosaurs around back then, or was that after that?
Well, that's about the same time Jurassic Park came out. Yes.
Oh, okay. So pretty perfect. And then this is what really got me. I was doing my research, and I came across that you played football in Sweden and Germany.
Yep.
I'm curious to know what that was like. Like, tell me about that.
Well, I got done playing at Indiana. I started coaching at Eastern Illinois University, and then I got a phone call asking if I'd be interested to play in Europe, and I said sure. I was young and dumb, but it was a great opportunity to see the world. Went to Sweden first. I was there for 2 seasons. Had the time of my life, to be honest with you. John Grisham has a book called Playing for Pizza. It's a quick read, and it kind of is a pretty accurate depiction of what goes on over there. They don't have scholastic-based sports in Europe. It's all club, and every sport has its own club, and it all depends if you compete in the adult division or youth division. And it was a great time. I spent 2 years in Sweden, and then I spent another 4 in Germany.
And then, from what I understand, you coached in Germany at one point.
Yeah. Once I played my first year in Germany, I got into the coaching side of things and spent 3 years coaching over there. Had a blast. I learned a lot of football. You find out how good of a coach you are really quick when you have to communicate with people who don't speak English as their first language. And so I think the best, most successful American coaches were the ones who were able to get their message across. And, because the player's going to do what you tell them to do, or what they understand you tell them to do.
So when you were playing overseas in Germany and Sweden, was the football very different? Like, did they have different strategies overall, or was it kind of similar to how Americans played it back in the 90s?
No, about the same. I mean, I would probably put the best football over there. I would probably put that as an equivalent of a lower Division II, a really good Division III football team. Size-wise, there was a lot of Division I when it came to the size of their athletes, but they grew up playing other sports. They grew up playing hockey and soccer, and just different. You really see the difference when it comes to the skill positions, like quarterback, for example. Usually, teams had an American quarterback.
That makes sense. You never thought about writing a book about your experiences in that, or do you think there's just too much stuff about that?
No, ironically, I have. I just there's something needed for that called time. And, coaching this football team at Bryant University takes up most of my time.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll get to that piece in a little bit, but I'm very curious to know. I know we keep talking about the Germany-Sweden thing, but this is so interesting. I've never talked to anybody who's even really been – I don't think I've talked to anyone who's been to Germany or Sweden. Do you have any, wild, crazy stories? Because you were a young man back at those times. Do you have any wild stories about getting crazy in Germany or Sweden, or you kind of keep it chill?
There's a lot of fun, a lot of things. Like I said, we were there when I was in Sweden. It was a blast because, as a player, we would go to practice at night because that's when most of the people, those guys weren't professionals, so they usually had jobs during the day or they were in school. And then we would have practice at night. After practice, I would go work as a door guy at a pub. And that would close at 2 a.m. But you have to remember, this is summertime in Sweden. The sun never went down. So I would watch the sun go just below the skyline at about 10 o'clock. The sun would be right back up at about 2 in the morning when we got off work. We would go to the beach, go to sleep at the beach, wake up, spend all day at the beach, and then start it all over again the next day. And it was a lot of fun being a kid there. The food was amazing. In all the countries. And it was fun to travel around, just the way we traveled and played other countries and other cities, and got to experience and see a lot of the things um, kids my age didn't get to really experience.
Have you done a lot of traveling since then, or is that kind of you kind of through with your traveling experience?
Well, no, I did a lot of work for USA Football. We developed something called Heads Up Football, and I got to travel all over the world to teach that, whether it was to the Department of Defense coaches that were in Germany, or I got to go down to uh, Panama with my now wife. That's the country she's from, ironically, and got to go
Oh,
down and teach youth football coaches down there. And Sao Paulo, Brazil. Just when that whole CTE scare came up about probably 10, 12 years ago, the NFL's reaction to that was Heads Up Football through USA Football. And I was a master trainer. And I got to go over the world, Doha, Qatar, Bulgaria, Sofia, Bulgaria, with the Sofia Bears. And just got to teach the technique across the world, and it was a lot of fun. Football's taken me a lot of places.
that might be the best job ever, going around teaching football in different countries. I don't I gotta be honest, I don't think life gets much better than that, unless you're a
No,
podcast host. That's probably the best job in the
I
world.
can see that.
No, but that's actually really cool. I had no idea. So what is Heads Up Football? Like, I understand it's like related to the CTE stuff, but like specifically, if you don't mind explaining a little more about that.
Sure. So Heads Up Football was a program that we certified youth and high school coaches across the country. It really started the technique of taking the head out of the tackle, and all the rule changes took place. Not only was it just the tackling technique and taking the head out of the tackle, it was also the whole heat and hydration, sudden cardiac arrest. What if you had an emergency take place? A learned emergency plans. It was just it made coaches better at the end of the day. If you think
I
about
see.
it, there is no school for coaching. We all coach like we were coached as players, and you don't go to college for it. You don't. You just spend time doing it, and this kind of gave an educational piece to it that really helped make our game safer.
So you were doing that at the same time. I think what were you coaching high school as well at the same time, or was that different time periods?
No, it was about 2015, 2014, just before then. I actually started the development of the program was around 2010 when we first started to develop the program in Indianapolis. So I would go there about every 2 months, and we would do think tanks until the program was developed and rolled out around 2012. And then I spent the next 5, 6 years going across the country and the world certifying coaches.
That's I honestly I didn't realize that football was such a national sport. I guess we think about it with how flag football is going to be in the next Olympics, and I guess I just never thought about how football is such a worldwide sport, especially when I was doing my research and I read that you played in Germany, you played in Sweden. I'm like, are these leagues still active? And they are, and like
Yeah,
I think that's so impressive. I know the
European.
skill level is different, but
Yeah, one of my former players, Patrick Azumi, he's the commissioner of the European League of American Football, the ELF over there. That employs several Americans that play in that league, and there are several countries that play. And football is all over the world. USA Football, quite honestly, has gotten out of the contact sport world, and they've focused more on flag football now, and that's where the big push there was Scott Hollenbach and USA Football to uh, get football in the Olympics eventually. And they started the first move was flag football.
yeah. And I saw the other day. I think I was at a restaurant, and I saw they have like flag football for like teenagers,
Mm-hmm.
like on ESPN, and I'm
And
like, I
there's
didn't even know this was a thing.
there's adult leagues too.
Really, I didn't even like. I figured like recreationally, but like I didn't think it would go much beyond that. And the children thing is so interesting, and like teenagers. After one of the games, one of the receivers for like a high school, maybe he was like a freshman or something. He was like signing autographs for people older than him, like adults, and I'm like, wow, I didn't realize this was such like a thing. Um, do you have any experience doing the flag football stuff other than what you've seen, or is that kind of out of your wheelhouse?
Yeah, it's out of my wheelhouse. I pay the bills with a helmet and shoulder pads, and the flag football is what we used when I was in Europe in our club, the Hamburg Blue Devils. That flag football is what we used to get uh, kids introduced to the sport. See, the problem is with football, it's unlike all the other sports that are out there. So when you first start playing basketball, the goal is a little bit lower, and
Mhm.
it doesn't matter what sport you play, whether it's t-ball. There's a progression. You start off in t-ball, and then it's the coach pitch, and then it's player pitch, and there's a progression. Problem is with football, there was no progression. It was they threw you into the deep end. You're playing on a 100-yard field at the age of 8, and this flag football was sort of a way to introduce kids to the sport without contact. And then the modified flag football is something that I hope picks up a little bit more, and that sort of bridges the gap between flag and contact. And modified football is flag rules for tackling, but blocking is live with a helmet and shoulder pads, and you wear a set of flags. And that's a logical progression into the world of full contact football.
I wish they had all this flag football stuff when I was a kid, and that wasn't even that long ago. But I feel like I never played football growing up. Like, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if you can tell, but just based on my stature. But I wish we had it. I wasn't allowed to play football. I was always a pretty scrawny kid. Even when I was young, and my middle school didn't have any football. I come from a really small town where that wasn't really a big thing. It was more of a basketball town. So I played all that. I mean, I'm like 6'7", so it would make sense, But I did want to be a quarterback at one point, but that dream died pretty quick when I picked up the basketball. My dad's like, "You're not doing that. You're gonna play basketball." I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'll do that."
Could have
But
punted.
that would have been fun. I didn't even really know that was an option, honestly. Like at the time, like I don't, like when you're a kid, you don't even really think about that unless you're like introduced to the sport. Like you don't. I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense. But
Yeah, it does.
both my parents played basketball. My mom played in college. My dad was like all state in Rhode Island. So it's just kind of what I knew. I picked up volleyball eventually when I got to high school. But I didn't. Who thinks about volleyball like that? Like you don't
Well,
even realize that it's like a sport really. But I'm very curious because there's a lot of people that listen to my show that are like my age. I'm 19. Usually they're a little younger, maybe a little older, that are interested in being coaches. What did you do to separate yourself from other people trying to rise up the ranks in the coaching world? Because obviously you're a high school coach for a long time, and eventually you come to Bryant. You
well,
coached in Florida, right? Like
yeah,
that's a pretty big jump.
yeah. I guess I feel that you're always. It doesn't matter what you're doing in life. You're always interviewing, and if it's not for something right now, it's for something down the line. That's why that's how you treat people. And an opportunity came up. I coached a young man who ended up being one of the best that the high school that I coached at to ever play there. And mind you, this is the school where all the Greasies and Shulas went. And I want to get an awkward smile from you because I'm not sure if you know who those people
Yes, I
are.
do. Yes.
All right, so
No,
uh,
I'm not. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I know I didn't play football, but I'm a big NFL guy. I know.
okay. Well, if you say the age that you were, I have a lot of kids who've sat in my office for the last 15 or 5 years. Who, whenever I tell them that Brian Greasy and Mike Shula played quarterback at the high school that I coached at. Now I didn't coach them, but they set the records. They
Yeah.
give me an awkward smile because they don't know who those people are. So, but this young man came in, Tucker Byrne, broke their rules or their records. Excuse me, they broke their records in passing and led us to a state championship game in 2014. And uh, he and I built a really good head coach and quarterback relationship. And when he graduated and left, we stayed in touch. But his father went to Bryant University and was part of the board of trustees here. So when the job opened up, unbeknownst to me, he threw my name into the hat for consideration, and they call. I didn't go after the job. That I got a phone call, and when I got the phone call, I thought at the age of 50, I'd taken our football program as far as we could take it in Florida, and I had to come up here and interview now, and still win the job there, and it just from my understanding, my vision for this football program and the school's vision kind of aligned a little bit compared to the other college coaches, and we've done exactly that in the last 6 years. We've grown this program substantially and into this new world, and yeah, it was a big jump. There's no doubt about it.
What was your wife's reaction when you're like, "Hey, I have a job interview in Rhode Island. And she's like, "What is
Well,
that?"
you want to ask her? She's right here.
Hi.
Hi. I'd like to know what your reaction was when your husband said that he had a job interview in Rhode Island. Did you know
Well,
what Rhode Island is?
no. So
Okay, some people
our
don't.
kids are big, and I said, you know what? It's a fun to move somewhere else. And so I was calling my friends and say, hey, I think we're moving to Long Island. And my husband was like, honey, and I'm like, I'm gonna be in Manhattan every day because I love Manhattan. And he's like, no, 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 Rhode Island. I'm like, oh my gosh, where is that? So I had to look it up in the map, but I love it here. It's beautiful.
It is nice. I was genuinely curious because I've heard the Long Island thing so many times. I went to
Oh,
Florida last year for
see,
volleyball
that's
nationals,
me.
and I said I'm from Rhode Island, and people said, "Where is that?" It was either that or I said I go to Rhode Island College, and they said, "Oh, you go to Brown University?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I say, "Yes, I do. You are absolutely right. I go to Brown."
And
But I was
my
just,
students, they always laugh when I tell them the story, and I tell my students, that I thought I was moving to Long Island.
Now, where are you from originally?
I've been from Providence. I've lived in Providence my whole life.
Okay, well, my wife teaches at Mount St. Charles.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. I know exactly where that is. Okay.
Yeah.
So for both of you, what was the transition like from Florida to Rhode Island? And then I'll let you go, ma'am. But I appreciate you
Yeah,
you stopping in.
well, the weather was the first thing. The first winter, I thought I was gonna die. Um, the first time snow, my husband wasn't here, and I didn't even have anything to clean my car. And I told my students, "Who's gonna clean my car?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" I go, "When it's snow, who does the cleaning?" And they're like, "You." I'm like, "Oh no, I have to create a club that is the snow club or something because I don't do that." So, but it was the first winter was not gonna lie, it was hard. But
Mm.
then I feel like every year I get more and more used to it. But it was like it was a big, big, big change. Completely it was whoa. But
Yeah, I believe you. Honestly, I don't know what it's like to live anywhere else, but I'm sure that adjustment was hard. Now, Chris, what do you think?
very
I,
nice
I
meeting you.
I
Thank you.
grew up, I grew up in Indiana. I grew up with Four Seasons. I loved Miami. I love it, especially November to March. Okay.
Mm.
But I was really happy to see fall again and spring again. Winter doesn't bother me. It did that.
Right.
I'm not going to lie to you. That first month back, because I got hired in December, that first January was, self questioning, but it's been a lot less since.
Yeah, I understand that. I've heard that a lot from people that have moved here. I know plenty of people that have moved either here or moved out of here, how different it can be. Honestly, I was just curious because I don't know what that perspective's like from everybody else. And I guess I didn't think about how you lived in Indiana before this, but I will ask, like, when I don't even know how to phrase this, but when you're doing an interview like that, what was your reaction to, like, being asked to interview for that job? Because, like, I feel like you didn't really know your name was in the ring, so to speak, right? Like, you weren't
Yeah,
aware of that.
I hadn't interviewed for a job in 20 years at that time. I what I do is what I do, and how I do it's how I do it. So I was very comfortable coming up after doing my research on the school. After doing this place is a launching pad.
Mhm.
It truly is. So I felt that there was a lot of great things about Bryant University, very similar to the high school that I was at, just a larger version of it. Um, for example, the basketball program at the school at Columbus High School, they just won the national championship in basketball. They had the Boozer twins on the team that won four straight consecutive basketball championships, and the football program has won a couple states since I've left. So the place was a launching pad. Bryant was very similar, and I felt that what I had been doing for the last 2 decades was going to apply, here as well. And we've done that. We've competed. We just now once we get settled into this new conference and get our new numbers, I'm excited for the future here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to. I'll definitely be at some games. You'll definitely see me. I'm pretty tall. I'll probably stand out in the crowd, so you'll definitely see me on the sidelines rooting for Bryant for sure. I know my school doesn't have football, I'll tell you that. But Have your coaching philosophies changed at all, or does it kind of stay the same from job to job? Because you've coached a couple different places, you've been like coordinators and such. Has it changed at all, or do you kind of stay true to yourself, I guess, so to speak?
Well, for the most part, I am who I am. I'm going to tell you that the world of football at our level has changed considerably in the last 5 years. It's not the same type of environment that we've coached in. I'm all for kids making the most of their opportunities and making money playing. That's the last of my concern. I just don't like the transient nature of what our game has become. I think that there's a lot of value to staying someplace and developing and competing. But unfortunately, just the world the way it is, you're looking at a 35 to 45% change in your roster every year, which is not something that I'm used to. And I'm still getting used to that piece of it, but we're navigating it.
I guess that leads right into my next question about NIL. I've talked to a lot of coaches in the past about NIL. In a previous internship I did, I interviewed a ton of coaches in all different sports. They all had different things to say. I've never talked to a football coach about it. Like, what's your relationship been with it so far? I know it's still kind of early and we're still kind of new and we're just figuring stuff out with NIL, but what's been your relationship with it so far?
At our level, FCS football, there's not a ton of NIL that's out there. I realize that I'm at a school where basketball is the king, and they've made the NCAA tournament twice now in the last 4 years, and financially that does wonders for the school. But FCS football, there's a little bit of NIL, but not a ton. But my experience with it so far has been it's been very light. It's been here or there. We've got institutional aid that will compete with NILs from other competing schools that we compete against. So, that is a navigating challenge for us and or navigation challenge for us, and it's changing every year. And we're just going to do the best we can, like Bryant does, and stay ahead of the curve.
That's honestly the perspective I'm hearing from a lot of different coaches, to be honest, in all different sports. They kind of say a similar thing, unless you're one of the bigger schools like a UNC or whatever. You don't deal with it as much, I think, as those big colleges. I don't know how big of a movie guy you are. I'm a huge movie guy, so I want to get your take. What is your favorite football movie from a Division I football coach? I feel like you have an interesting perspective on this and how accurate those can be.
Sure. Brian's Song. That's an old one, though.
Really? So I was thinking you go like Remember the Titans, maybe, or no?
Brian's Song is about Brian Piccolo and Gale Sayers back in the day. It's an older song. Older movie that stars James Caan.
Oh yeah.
But that's one of my all-time favorite football movies. It's more of the story around it. I find out when the focus is too much on football, it gets a little cheesy for my liking. So I like the story that goes around it.
I understand that. Honestly, I'm going to add it to the list because I was expecting you to say like some basic answer, but I'm happy that we're getting that's a deep cut. I don't know what I was expecting. I was thinking maybe Longest Yard or something like that. Even the older Longest Yard, which I prefer that one.
Yeah. Well, Burt Reynolds.
I do like James Caan a lot. Yeah, Burt Reynolds. He's the man, honestly. I'm a big fan of his. I have one last question. I'm going to let you go. I know you're a busy guy, Division I football coach. That ain't easy. Could you share the best advice you've ever received in your career? It's usually something I do every episode. I usually ask my guests to share a piece of advice they've received.
Sure. Give me some realm here. Give me a piece of advice in terms of what?
I'll say furthering your career in general. Just trying to make that next step and build your career, especially as a younger person. Sure. Most of my audience is like the 18 to 25 range. So just to give you an idea.
I gotcha. Well, yeah. The best advice I can give is remember, you're interviewing every day and you don't realize it. I'm a perfect example of that. But you have to coach, or you have to be where you're at and do the best job where you're at instead of always looking for the next thing. If you're good, those opportunities come. But if your focus is not on what you're doing or where you're at, well, that means you're doing, pardon my language here, but you're doing a half-assed job, and those opportunities usually don't come for those people, those half-ass jobs, if that makes sense.
I guess if I could add on to that question, for athletes wanting to stand out with college coaches, because now you've seen it. You've seen, I'm sure you do plenty of recruiting. I'm sure you've done a ton, especially in Rhode Island and local states. What do you look for in a player that's not necessarily just their talent? Like there's been a million talented players, but what really makes them stand out to you when you're recruiting?
Well, you look at it, there's a matrix of 4 possibilities. You either have no talent, okay, and no drive, and those are the people that we want to stay away from as a football coach. You either have maybe not as much talent, but you have a strong internal drive. You can win with those type of guys. But when you have talent and no drive, you stay away from them, okay? And the special ones are the ones who have the talent and who have the drive. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so,
actually, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
You want to stay in both of those cases. You want to fill your football team with people who not only have talent, but the ones who don't have as much. But the key thing there is that they got to pour something into the bucket. And you can win with a mixture of talent on your team as long as they all have drive, an internal drive to succeed and compete. It's the
Makes
ones.
Sense.
It's the ones who don't. Those are the ones. No matter how good you are, you're either not going to help us win, or you're an underachiever. Nobody wants to be around those guys.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, Coach Merritt, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining me today. And for all the listeners and all the watchers at home, thank you for joining us. I have been your host, Connor Lewis, signing off.